Okay. Well, that may be because here. Can you hear? Well, can you hear me now on the audio? Okay. Okay. The screen changed because for some reason it switched me over to some weird place. I sent you a little chat message, and I said I can see you in here now.
Okay, so here's welcome to the inaugural webinar, which is what was on before our mock one.
Okay.
Okay, now I can hear the audio.
Okay.
I can hear you.
You can't hear me?
Not as good as I was before.
Yeah, you're getting a delay on the thing, which is okay. The reason why I called Dan is I was wondering if you can try to log in now as an administrator instead of a registrant.
How do I do that?
Well, I resent out the administration email again. I just want to see if you got it in your H2O power at gmail.com, a new email.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, click on that, Dan, and see if you can click on the yellow box. Yes, I agree to be administrator. Okay.
I'm not even being given different options on here. Recording, sounds, communications. I was given, oh, wait a minute, no. Set default. Configure. Go to configure.
Okay.
Yes. And then left and right are working. Next. Configure complete. Finish. Okay. Right. Why can't I set default? Okay. I don't know what's happening, Peter. Still hear you, so it won't be that
Okay.
low.
But you can hear me all right, but and you can see the screen, but it's just not that loud for you.
Correct. And the live stopped right now. Actually, now it started up again. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if people are having issues because it is a couple minutes before and there's nobody else in this right now.
Yeah, I don't see anybody except for you and me in the dang thing. So I'm wondering if if there are people that are having issues getting in. I asked people to let me know if they can see the screen okay when they come in, but no one else has come in. So now I'm wondering, uh-oh, what's going on here?
Oh, okay. Now it's kicking me in
As an admin? Okay.
moderator.
Oh, good. Awesome. Okay, well, oh yeah, I see you there. Okay. Perfecto. Oh, there's a whole bunch of people kicking in now. Wow. 28, 39, 31, 32. It's coming in. Hey everybody, this is Peter Lasowski. So I just want to welcome you. I can see there's a lot of you coming in on the attendees. Really excited to get everyone in here tonight. We're going to be starting in about 3 to 5 minutes, so just hang on. If you can hear me, please in the chat box just say, hey, I can hear you just fine. And we'll get started. This is a brand new webinar platform for me, so I'm kind of working out the bugs here along with a couple other people. We'll get it going here pretty soon. So just hold on, but please do in the chat, let me know if you can hear me okay. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, everybody, we are going to get started here. We have a lot of people that are on this call, or webinar, I should say, from all over the world. I just wanted to thank you very much for coming in. This webinar is going to be just about 60 minutes, and every week it's going to be like that. Everybody said they could see my screen okay, so I just want to welcome you to the inaugural webinar here. The whole idea is what we're doing is this is both for people who already have the Crocodile Brain selling system as a complement in what you can do every week, and also for people who maybe haven't ever heard of the Crocodile Brain selling system or who are new to this and really want a way to dramatically grow the business. And I just want to, we have a couple people on here. I want to check. Lynette, are you on at all?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine, Lynette. So
Great.
Lynette is going to be, along with Dan Tui, as we start out here, she's going to be one of the administrators and moderators along with Dan as well as myself. And just so you guys know, as we get going, and we will be, you know, working, the format of the webinar really is going to be, we'll have some announcements, you know, every week. This week is our first week, so not really any announcements to say for right now, unless, Lynette, you have anything that you wanted to announce?
No, not this evening, but thank you for asking.
Okay, and then what we're going to be doing is, like I said, we're going to be covering new weekly information. Then as we go forward, we're going to have this as a live question and answer format for coaching for you guys too, so that you can really get your questions answered. This whole idea was really born out of the last 6+ months on the Difference Makers call. A lot of you guys get on that. I think that format worked really, really well. And so we want to make sure that, you know, we continue that, but in a learning classroom. And then there'll be closings and offerings. Again, guys, if you look over to your right sidebar, there is a place for the crocbrain selling system special, the webinar price here. It's 3 payments paid monthly. It's unlimited access. I don't want it to be a monthly thing or an annual thing. It really is for you guys, for all of us to learn and to grow. Okay, so as we go forward, we're going to have people who have had success in what they've learned and put into practice. And again, I really want you to communicate with me if you've had some successes and things you've learned during the week. Also on the live Q&A, you can bring things up of, hey, I tried this, or you can say, hey, you know what, I'm having a challenge in this area. Peter, what would you do? But I want to let you know there are some people. I know Dan Tui is actually blowing it up out there in Florida with some of the things, and he's only used, you know, a couple of the techniques in, as far as how to build likability and trust with the 4 personality builders and the ego filters and things like that. So, but there'll be others on that will have, as well as you. So if you're demonstrating some success in a certain area, I certainly want to interview you, or Lynette or Dan, or I will interview you and just kind of talk about what you're doing so everybody can learn. That's the whole idea. This is not about me. This is all about all of us guys together, working together as a team. All right? So, and we'll also, like I said, do the interviews and to learn in creative ways of how people are using the Crocodile Brain selling system. All right. So this week, what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to start. And by the way, just so you know, for the people that for whatever reason, we have a lot of attendees on the call right now, but for whatever reason, if they didn't make it, or if you want to listen to this again, the call will be recorded. You will get a link since you registered. It will do that every week. You'll get a link for an automatic playback so you can listen to it again after we you know, do these webinar and these teaching sessions. And that way it's nice because you've heard it here once. I highly advise you take some notes today and listen and grab some notes, because these are things like today, conversation starters, and I have a big bonus that are called metaphor stories at the very end. A lot of you in Difference Makers haven't heard this yet. This will be new for you, but they're very powerful. But it's a way for you guys to get started tomorrow, to use these. The homework, I'm going to give you a homework in each of these areas so that you can go forward and then try them and see how it works and prove it to yourself, you know, in building your business. All right? So this week it's really what to say. These are conversation starters of what to say to get interest or strike interest in people. So getting into the teaching webinar piece for today is, well, you know, the big question, is, well, how do you do that? And that's really what we're going to talk about today is when you approach people that you don't know, how do you start that conversation, okay? So when you run into people, or you're calling people on the phone, or you're meeting someone for the first time, for many of us, or many of you, or all of us together, it's really difficult to know how to strike up a conversation. And sometimes, you know, we're a little nervous. Now, we have a lot of people from all over the world on this call, and we have a lot of people from Enagic. We have people that are not Enagic distributors on this call. A lot of people who are in direct sales or in business opportunities and things like that, just because people want to really understand, well, how do I do this? And I know for a lot of you that when you come up and you talk to somebody, it is a little nerve-wracking at first because, you know, when you want to talk about your product, service, or business opportunity, it's kind of awkward. You know, deep down inside, you know, it's kind of awkward from talking about the weather to asking a person to check into your product or opportunity, okay? Now, you may have tried that, you know, before, and it's happened to me too years ago. You know the response you get. You watch as the skepticism goes up, or their eyes glaze over, and the person politely says, well, hey, no thanks, I'm not interested, okay? So, or, you know, if you're on the phone, if you're not talking to a person, you know, in person where you can read their body language, you're on the phone, it's even harder. Sometimes they get very quiet and they give you one-word answers. And, you know, even worse yet, they'll say, if they're kind of busy or they're having a bad day or something's going on, they'll say, you know, hey, what's this all about? I'm very busy. Can you get to the point? There's certain personality types that will say that to you all the time. They're called high Ds. But the thing about it is that can be kind of intimidating, and to know how to handle that or know how to start a conversation so that doesn't even happen or you minimize it happening is really what we're looking to do here, okay? So, you know, really, you guys, you know the drill. We have all had that happen to us before. And for most of us, you know, it's hard because we get emotionally tied to these types of rejections. And, you know, after we have, you know, a few of those things happen to us and we get these no's, we try a couple of times, you know, we get some negative responses and we go, you know what, I just can't do this today. We pack up and go home. So, you know, the first thing, hopefully, that you're learning from this is, you know, we're all in business together. We are whether we sell a product, service, or business opportunity, you know, basically you can't get emotionally tied to the outcome or the response. What you really are looking to do is you're looking to start these conversations so that there's three key factors, and I'm gonna show you what that is here in some upcoming slides. So the question is really, well, how do you start a conversation so the person is initially open to listening to what you have to say? Now, in order to master this skill, it first starts with understanding of how to keep a person from being skeptical, okay? You want to keep what's called the sales filter down, okay? So to understand this, we're going to start a little bit with Brain Science 101. Now, some of you have not ever heard this before. Some of you have heard this once or twice from me. It's always good to go over as a review if you have. If you've never heard this, pay attention very closely because this will give you just a general rudimentary understanding of some of the things that are happening inside the brain when you're speaking to a particular person, okay? Now, your brain has three major parts. I'm going to keep this easy. Remember, this is Brain Science 101. There's multiple parts of the brain. There's a lot going on. And I'll tell you guys, I'll lay it out for you factually. Even in neuroscience, this is pioneering frontier stuff. We are still learning about how the brain works. It is the most complex instrument for sure on this planet and possibly maybe even in the universe. But I'll tell you, there's still a lot going on, a lot of research, and a lot of things happening. But what we know so far from using technologies like EEG and fMRI technologies is, and kind of explaining it in a one-on-one way, there's three parts to the brain, okay? The first part is the crocodile brain, which is at the base of your skull. And the crocodile brain, I'm going to show you a picture here in just a second, but it is primarily responsible for survival, fight, flight, or reproduction. The mammalian brain is the middle part of your brain. If you look at this in the picture here, so you see the reptilian brain is this part right here. Okay, it is the base of your brain. It is the oldest part of your brain. It's like the cave person brain. The middle part of your brain is the the what's called the mammalian brain that all mammals have, as so do human beings, but it is responsible for both emotion and associative memories. There's different pieces, and again, in the crocodile brain selling system, I do a whole series of videos that talk about the brain, the different components of the brain, how to activate the reward center in the midbrain or mammalian brain in the limbic system, and all of that kind of stuff in great detail. But for right now, we're just going to talk about the three pieces. But just so you know, the midbrain or mammalian brain houses the limbic system, which is responsible for a lot of the emotional ties to memory and things like that. Okay. And then the third part of the brain, as you can see up here, is the cortex or neocortex, and this is really the human part of the brain. This is about rational thinking, data, logic, and basically creativity, learning, and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So what I really want to point out to you is, in a lot of the data studies and the neuroscience studies, what they found out over the last few years is the fact that what we thought was true as far as making purchase decisions on benefits and features and rational thinking and all that kind of stuff is actually not true. We make purchase decisions based on the crocodile brain. In other words, is it first a threat to us? And if it isn't, then the sales filter stays down, which allows us to speak into the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain, and it has to do with making decisions based on that emotion, and there are some chemical elixirs that dump into the brain, and again, that's all covered in the crocodile brain selling system. But the key thing is to know is that the primary decision maker in a buying decision is the crocodile brain first. It trumps the mammalian brain or the limbic system and the cortex. And then secondarily, the limbic system will trump the rational brain or the cortex or neocortex brain. So we only make a rationalization of the purchase process with the cortex or neocortex after the purchase or buying decision has been made. All right? So as long as you understand that, the key thing really now is to understand that you've got to speak to the croc brain to keep that sales filter down. Okay, and what that does is that's going to allow you to pass through into the limbic system and then ultimately the neocortex. Okay, those are the powerful things. So, and to keep that sales filter down, what you say has to cover these three things. First of all, it's got to be rejection free. Okay, in other words, if you're thinking about this now, remember, in the crocodile brain, based on survival, okay, is this a threat or not to me? It's not like it was way back in cave person days where we were running around hunting food on the savannah, and at any time an animal of deadly nature could come out, jump on us, and attack us and kill us. We're dealing with things now in the modern world as it relates to rejection free, in that, and survival with the croc brain is this going to some way cause me a status issue, a lowering of status? Is this going to be something where someone's taking advantage of me and conning me out of my money? I mean, you guys know what skepticism is, because when you've dealt with other salespeople that really haven't done a very good job, you become very skeptical and mistrustful. That is your crocodile brain. The sales filter's going up, and basically you're done. So how you do that is what you say has to be rejection free. In other words, the first thing you want it to do is what you say needs to raise curiosity. Why? Because when you have curiosity, the croc brain can't help but want to find out if this is going to be a survival threat. So for a suspended moment in time, it's going to keep the sales filter down if you are raising curiosity in what you say. All right, so it can determine whether it is a threat or not. Okay, the croc brain is a cognitive miser. It doesn't like to think a lot. It reacts basically at will. All right. Secondly, is what you say doesn't embarrass or pressure. Now, I talked about survival threats. If you are embarrassing or pressuring a person, you are creating vulnerability in that person, and that is a survival threat. So if you embarrass or pressure them, you guys have all known about, pushy salespeople that say things. If they're trying to pressure you into something, what typically happens, right? You walk away. No, I'm not interested, or the sales filter goes up. So the key thing is we don't want to. It's got to be somewhat rejection free. It's not 100% of the time, but most of the time it's got to be rejection free. It cannot embarrass or pressure. And then the third thing, guys, is it has to have a low chance to trigger a memory that raises the sales filter. Okay, so in other words, if in your brain, and again, this is where it's very complex, and it's not 100% for sure thing, because how this happens, I mean, we have an understanding of how it works with the hippocampus and things in the brain, and the hippocampus being a memory indexer. However, all of the emotions that you store with different memories are basically customized to you based on your life experiences, and you're different from anyone else. So what we need to do is, looking at that as kind of a broad brush, is to have a lower chance of triggering a memory that may be negative, a negative emotion that would raise the sales filter, is we need to use questions or stories that do not threaten. Okay, so I'm going to show you basically how to do that with some of these metaphor stories as the big bonus at the end, so that you can see how that's done. All right, so you see what you say to start a conversation. I mean, and you guys have been through this, because and I have too. It can be really good or really bad. If it's really good, you get a person interested. You may have intuitively stumbled on some things that you said and thought, wow, that conversation went really good. Why did that one go good, yet this other one went really bad? Okay, and if it's really bad, you know what happens. They shut down, they walk away, no thank you, I'm not interested. You basically have to move on, all right? And that happens to all of us. So if you're not getting the results you want, then you're probably more often than not saying the wrong things. And here's the thing. What I found out years ago, and what you're learning now or have learned intuitively if you're really good at sales, is unless I changed the way I started conversations, then really nothing was going to change in how I built my business, because that's the very first step. If you can't get the people interested initially, you're not going to get very far in towards presenting your product, service, or business opportunity and then closing that sale. All right, so if you know how to start a conversation, or starting that conversation from, with how's the weather to, well, are you ready to try this product, you know that that's a big gap, okay? And that gap scares us. And it's hard to transition from friendly social talk to introducing your business or your product or service into a conversation without coming across as a pushy salesperson if you don't know how. The reason why is it's fear, okay? You become afraid that, and it didn't work out before, or you have this fear in your own mind that this is not working, and because of that fear, we often don't say anything, and that really can kill your career in business and in direct sales. So the key thing is, there's a cool secret here, and I want to share that with you, and that is basically the big difference between the people that have a lot of prospects and a higher conversion rate in selling and those who don't is really what you say and what you do. And the only thing you may not have right now, and probably why you're here, is to pick up some different things to grow your business, is the skills of exactly what to say and what to do to grow your business or grow your career exponentially. All right, and that's what we're going to talk about starting with this inaugural webinar this week. Okay, and you really don't need to become a power sales person or find one to get you to grow fast or have your business grow fast or sell your products as their services. In fact, a lot of this stuff really is conversational. It's not about learning sales scripts. It's not about really learning about objections or closings or anything. It's really just learning how to talk to people in a way that's natural, that flows, but speaks to them and triggers the right portions of the brain. All right? So I'm going to go over a couple conversation starters to help you when you are either starting a conversation or someone asks you what you do for a living. Now, in the Crocodile Brain selling system, there's a dozen or more of these, and they're all in there. I've got separate videos on each on what to say and what to do and how to start conversations. I'm going to give you a couple today because the whole idea is I want you to start using these starting tomorrow, and I'm going to give you a little bit of homework for this week in conversation starters so that you can actually go out and have some fun with these and watch what happens when you talk to people, and also you can prove it to yourself that these things really work. All right? If you follow what I'm teaching you here, okay? So your job really is by these conversation starters your job here is to get that initial interest with what you say, okay? So, and remember, like I said, going over this stuff, what you say needs to be, mostly rejection free, does not embarrass or pressure, and doesn't trip a memory with a negative emotion, all right? So, I'm going to give you a couple here that you can use starting tomorrow, and then I'm going to give you the big bonus that I promised if you've seen some of the Facebook posts or ads or anything like that. All right? So we're going to do a conversation starter number 1, and this is for anybody basically in service. I call this, retail clerks, wait staff. And, again, guys, here's the thing. I want to make it really clear because there's been things that have been floating around with different people and different opportunities. I did not invent this question. This question has not been invented by anyone for a long, long time. This one's been around for eons. If you study Zig Ziglar or any of the great Og Mandino or any of the great salespeople, this one comes up. I'm just saying, as it relates to what's going on in the brain, this one is really powerful, and I'm going to explain to you why. And I'll help you with here's how you use it. So, let's say you're talking to, we'll just do, for example, a wait staff person, okay? And you're in a restaurant, and you have a business opportunity that you're looking at. A lot of you guys are energy distributors on this call, so you're sitting there, and the wait staff comes over, and I always, let people know that when they're serving me, I always introduce myself. So let's say that her name is Jenny. I say, hey, what's your name? She said, my name's Jenny. I'm here to serve you today. I said, great, Jenny. My name's Peter. And she said, well, it's nice to meet you, Peter. And if there's other people with me, I introduce them because it's just a polite thing to do. And so, Jenny takes your order and that kind of thing. And, it comes to the end, and she comes by. What happens? You get your food, and then like 5 minutes later, what do they always do? They come by. How's your food? How's everything? You always say, even if it's bad, you say, hey, it's good. It's fine. But at the very end, this is the key. Every single restaurant I've been in, I don't care because I've been in ones all over the world. They all bring you over the little book that has the receipt in it with your bill, right? And so when Jenny does that, we had talked, we had talked a couple times through the meal and things like that. And I'll say, hey, Jenny, I've watched you work here. You really work hard. I see you hustling between the tables, but you seem like you're really happy. You're a pretty upbeat person. Jenny gave her a compliment. Jenny says, yeah, that I am, and I like what I do. And I'll ask her this question. I say, hey, Jenny, are you married to your job, or you keep your options open? Now, just try that question with anybody that you run into. This is a wait staff one, and find out what they say. Okay, remember, you are learning and experimenting to get better, but asking the question, are you married to your job? You keep your options open. Now, the other funny one I always do, you can do a variation of it. You can say, Jenny, I know you're probably independently wealthy, right? You just like to stand on your feet all day long and have aching feet when you go home at night because you love your wait staff job so much. And watch the reaction you get. Now that's humorous, but either way, the curiosity and humor, what it's doing is it's keeping the sales filter down in the croc brain. You are not asking a question that's going to cause, something where they're going to become skeptical. In other words, right? There's no survival. By asking this question, are you married to your job? You keep your options open. What have you raised? Curiosity. If you've raised curiosity, the sales filter is going to stay down. Now, the next question that I'll ask, and I actually, which you're going to hear from Dan Toohey, he's going to be on these calls. Dan's doing a great job out there in Florida. Dan actually taught me a what would it take question, and I love this question, and I've added it now when I talk to people. And this one works really well. So you can ask the next question of her, and she'll say, well, yeah, I keep my options open. What do you got? And I would say, well, Jenny, what would it take for you to try something else part-time? And then just be quiet. Now, I'm not asking her a yes or no. I'm asking her an open-ended question. These open-ended questions are very, very powerful. And she may say, well, I don't know. I've never thought about that. But at least what you're doing is you're implanting in her brain, there might be something here I might want to check out, okay? So what would it take for you to try something else? But I say part-time. I don't say, what would it take for you to quit your job and join me in a business opportunity? Now, if I said that, what would happen? I mean, a lot of alarm bells would go off in her brain because now I'm posing a survival threat to her, right? Do you guys see the difference? So the whole idea there is you want to keep that sales filter down, right? Rejection free, does not embarrass or pressure, and you don't want to trigger a negative emotion, right? And you may trigger some negative emotions if she thinks about, oh, I have to quit my job, now I have no income, now what am I going to do while I'm building this business with you? How do I know I can trust you? I mean, red flag after red flag. But if you ask it this way, with the what would it take for you to try something part-time, you're not asking her to quit her job, so there is no pressure, there's no red flags, there's nothing going off there, okay? Now, most likely, and again, guys, there is no one that will tell you that this works 100% of the time. It does not work 100% of the time for me, but it works a majority of the time. They're going to say, well, what's this all about? Okay, they're going to at least ask that question. So what you did is you just struck interest. You did not activate the crocodile brain, the sales filter, okay? So they're asking you because they're kind of intrigued, all right? So you say, well, I can't talk right now. I know you got a lot of customers. I've seen you working really hard here, but what I do is I turn the receipt over because you get usually 2 or 3 of them in the book, and there's a pen right there because they want you to sign your name and pay the bill, right? If you're using a credit or debit card, and you say, could you put your name and number on this receipt, and I'll give you a call tomorrow. Or I ask, what time don't you work tonight or tomorrow where we can talk on the phone? And they'll tell you. They'll say, well, I get off my shift tonight at 10, or I don't go to work till noon, so how about we talk at 10 tomorrow? I say, great. Why don't we do that on the phone? Now there is another piece to this. It's called the integrity commitment. We don't have enough time to go into that. That is in the crocodile brain selling system to increase your chances of them actually showing up on the phone, okay? You do that out of integrity, and there's a couple questions that you ask there, okay? But for right now, if you're just asking those questions, for this week, because I really want you to go out and try this stuff, it's very simple to remember. You can do it conversationally, and I'm asking you to do it so you can watch what happens, okay? Because the more you do this, the more you're going to be blown away at how this stuff really works because you're not raising the sales filter. So here's the thing. Let's examine what you said with the sales filter in mind, okay? So number 1, was it rejection free? The answer is yes, because due to curiosity, most people keep their options open until they find out more. And I'll tell you that most people who are in wait staff or in retail service positions, they are living paycheck to paycheck. I don't care where you are in the world. And they're not getting ahead financially. And they know it. And if they have kids at home and they're barely making the bills, they're going to keep their options open. Okay? So you might find a real gold nugget if you ask this question enough times. And I will stress, a lot of people use this question. It's how you use the question, the 2 questions. Not just do you keep your options open, but what would it take, okay, for you to consider this part-time? That is a very powerful addition to that I use that will help to really keep that curiosity up and have them look at maybe listening to you for a few minutes on the phone. And we have a process piece called the 10-minute sort that we do that's in the crocodile brain selling system of exactly what to ask them when you follow up with them on the phone to really start activating the limbic system and other centers of the brain, all right? So it is rejection free. Did it embarrass or pressure? Well, no, it didn't, because there's no commitment. We didn't ask for anything yet. Guys, remember, in sales, sales is about the right conversation of what to say at the right time and the right process that you go through. Okay? Here's the thing. Think about it for all you guys that go fishing, right? If you're going to go fishing, You can't just go to a lake and stand there and look at the lake and have fish jump in your boat, right? Doesn't work that way. You have to go get a fishing pole, and you got to get fishing line and a fishing reel, and you got to get the right kind of fishing lure. So you may have to do some research there, right? And so then you got to go read the lake, and you got to know where the fish may be hanging out. I don't know if you watch all those crazy guys on TV. I always get a kick out of those guys that do all the fishing shows. But those guys they're dead into that stuff. They know how to read the shorelines and all the stuff below it, but they're doing it. It's a process that they follow, so when they cast their lines, they have a higher chance of catching a fish over a guy who is a rookie and doesn't know how to do that, right? It's the same thing here. If you want to have a higher chance of catching the fish, you got to know what to say, and you got to have a process that you use to follow, all right? So thirdly now, did it trigger a memory with a negative emotion? Well, it could have, but here the memory may be one of living paycheck to paycheck. Now, you guys who've been, around on this earth for a little while have heard the whole pain pleasure type thing, right? So you know about that as far as here's you run from pain, right? We don't like pain because that's why, because it's a survival threat, right? Pain is a survival threat to the brain, to your body. So here's the thing, guys. If you don't believe me, have you ever had anyone run up behind you and go boo and scare you? What do? Your croc brain kicks in, you jump, and you immediately either jump out of the way or run or turn around and smack that person, okay? And you do it involuntarily. That is your crocodile brain in action. It is taking on the survival threat and doing whatever it can to either flee, right, fight, or flight. It's fleeing, flight, or fight. It turns around and you hit the person, and then you go, ooh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, right? That is a classic example of being scared and having your adrenaline kick in, and typically what you'll do is you'll run, you'll take off, especially if you're in the dark and someone jumps out from behind a corner, okay? We've all had that happen as kids. That is exactly the pain piece I'm talking about. The pleasure piece is we move towards pleasure. Now, I'm talking about pleasure in terms of what we want more of in life. Things that give us peace of mind, give us more status, give us more opportunity. These are things that we're going to be moving towards, okay? So, if you are triggering pain, that's okay, because they may be thinking, okay, there may be something here that will get me out of this pain, which is I'm not making it, living paycheck to paycheck, my bills are mounting, I've got mouths to feed at home with my kids, this is just not working. So I got to do something else to solve this problem, all right? So, your homework now, remember those two questions, and you can listen to the recording here, but your homework for this week is take those two questions, okay? Are you married to a job? You keep your options open, and what would it take for you to consider something else part-time? Find at least 3 people this week and ask those 2 questions and see if you can collect a name and number. That's all I'm asking you to do. Because every time I do this, people who actually do this, you will get names and numbers. And they come back to me and go, okay, Peter, now what do? I've got these names and numbers. What do I do next? Okay? So if you're serious about wanting to grow your business, and I don't care whether you're in a business opportunity, network marketing, you're in direct sales, you're in products, you're in services, it works all the way across the board. Why? Because we all have a very similar brain. Now, female and male brain are slightly different. We'll get into that later on. However, the basis of this with the sales filter and the crocodile brain is the same for all human beings, wherever you live in the world. So find at least 3 people this week, ask those 2 questions to see if you can't collect the name and phone number, and watch what happens, because we'll have some Q&A next week. You can share the people that actually do it. Let's have you share some of your stories. It's going to be kind of funny what happens, all right? So that's our first one. Now, conversation starter number 2, and this is any kind of a cocktail party, networking event, anything where you're interacting with people, okay? You ever been asked, so what do you do for a living? Okay, I'm sure all of you on this call, we've got a lot of people, hundreds of people on this call, have all had that ask of them. They all have, wondered, okay, how do I answer that in the right way? So we're going to talk about that right now. The other thing you may have been asked is to give a pitch for your business, or company in 30 or 60 seconds. If you go to networking groups like they have BNI and they've got Chamber of Commerce and they've got, all different kinds of things, most everybody gives you a chance to stand up for 30 or 60 seconds to pitch your business or your company, okay? Now, I'll tell you, when people ask me what should I say, my response back to them, a lot of times they'll say, well, I've got 30 seconds to present. What should I say? My answer is, say very little, but you got to say the right thing. Now, here's why, okay? The average attention span, now if you look here on the screen, this is according to the National Center for Biotechnology Information. You can look them up on Google. They are a real organization. The average attention span of a human is 8 seconds as measured in 2013, down from 12 seconds in the year 2000. Probably it's because of all the bombardings with, audio bites, video bites, all the internet stuff, the Twitter tweets, all this stuff is basically destroying our attention span because of technology, all right? I mean, I don't know about you, but, for kids to even sit down and read a textbook in school is pretty difficult for them these days, all right? So, and really, the thing that really is kind of funny that they stated here is that's lower than a goldfish, which was measured at 9 seconds. So we actually have an attention span now lower than a goldfish, which is kind of funny but kind of sad. But what it does is it really gets you to pause and think of saying, okay, if I only have 8 seconds, what the heck am I going to say that really is going to make an impactful statement? And I'm going to show you how to do that right now, okay? So what I would do is stop the following the herd, because if you've ever, here's the thing, the question I have down there at the bottom. You ever been to these networking events where everybody got up and talked for 30 seconds? Be honest with yourself. How many of those do you actually remember? I probably don't remember any of them. So basically, we just wasted 45 minutes of a networking event because nobody remembers anything of what anybody else said because they're not saying it properly and what to say, and they're certainly falling out of the 8-second attention span guideline. So I would stop following the herd and getting into a 60-second answer of what you do for a living. All right? What I would do is instead keep it to 8 seconds by using this particular conversation starter formula. I show people how to, and then a benefit. And I'm going to give you some examples here so you can get your brain started brewing on these so you can come up with some on your own. Now, here's what I have found, okay? Now, I'm just saying, again, you can try this and you can test it. This is not, there's no scientific fact or experimentation to this. I just know what I know. I do know if you talk about rhyming and mnemonics and things with the brain, but rhyming statements seem to work better than non-rhyming, just like lyrics in a song. I mean, guys, here's the thing. You know this to be true because some of your favorite songs, you know the lyrics and you can remember them in your brain for years. And when the song fires up on the radio, you're that crazy person going down the road in your car and you're singing the song, screaming out the lyrics at the top of your lungs, and everybody's looking at you at the stoplight or stop sign, right? Because the song you love and it's got rhyming lyrics and your brain can remember those. So we apply that same thing for when people say, what do you do for a living? So here's some examples. If you're into health, you can say, as a rhyming, I show people how to lose weight and feel great. Now, there's going to be a caveat on the very end of all these. I'm going to say what you should say after that, but we'll give you these first. I show people how to lose weight and feel great if you're into health or diets or anything. If you're in insurance, I show people why insurance is a must, and I'm the person to trust. Okay? Now, by any of these kinds of things, the response you're wanting to get is for them, first of all, register in their brain, because they can pay attention for 6 to 8 seconds on what I just said. Secondly, what you want is you want them to say to you, "What really? How do you do that?" Right? Because what did you just started the conversation. Okay, now you've got another 8-second blast you can give them on what you do, and I'll show you what that second 8-second blast is. Okay, so those are 2 examples there. Third and fourth example is if you're a realtor, and I know we have some realtors on this call. I show sellers that want to get top dollar should give me a holler. Okay. Now, if you're in the market to sell your home, what do you want? You want top dollar for your home, right? So I show sellers that want to get top dollar should give me a holler. Again, it's rhyming, and even if you can add humor to it, it's remembered even more. All right. If you're a CPA, I show people how to not feel so hollow with a much smaller tax bill to swallow. Okay. I show people how not to feel so hollow with a much smaller tax bill to swallow. So again, that's another one that's rhyming. The CPA that's saving people on their taxes, that's something that you can implant in their brain and they can remember. Now, here's the thing. You got that across in 6 to 8 seconds. And then you're going to always want to follow up with the statement of, hey, if you ever want to know, if you ever want to find out more, just let me know and I'll get you some information. Okay? So if you ever want to find out more, just let me know and I'll get you some information. So again, for all you guys that are in Enagic, we're going to give you some homework. You can come up with one of these that rhymes, one or two. If you're in a product, you can come up with those, or a service business. We have people on the call doing that. If you're in a business opportunity of any kind, it's the same kind of thing. The thing is you want to fit within that 8-second time period. All right. So your homework for this one, and again, you're going to get the replay, is create one or two I show people how to statements. Use them this week and watch what happens. You can use them. It doesn't have to be on people you don't know. You can use them on other business acquaintances. You can use them on friends and family. The whole idea here is you're getting into practice of, first of all, creating a couple of these statements and then using them on people so you get comfortable using them. Okay? All right. Now we're going to move on to the big bonus here for the teaching of the week. Okay, big bonus here is what we call using metaphor stories to change a person's perception. All right, now the definition of a metaphor is a word, phrase, or story for one thing that is used to refer to another thing to show they're similar. Okay, and I'll tell you what, guys, the better you get at metaphor stories, the more powerful your presence is going to be to people when you talk to them, and the more you're going to be remembered. All right, so we're going to give you some examples here. I'm going to give you some metaphor stories related to some very common things. If you're in any kind of direct sales, you're going to get price objections. You're going to get value questions or objections, and you're certainly going to have trust issues, okay? And we're going to get into all the trust stuff, the likability and trust in the future webinar. But we're going to give you some metaphor stories as it relates to this right now. Okay, number one, price metaphor, okay? So we're going to go through this for a lot of the people that are in Enagic that sell, you know, a machine that's $4,000. I'm sure all of you guys, and I don't care what you sell in business, you're going to get price objections. People will say, "What? How much does it cost?" And you say, "Well, it's a $4,000 machine," and they'll say, "What? Wow, that's expensive." And what happens, right? They immediately shut off. So here's the thing. What you want to do is you want to put it into a price metaphor. So here's how I do it that gets them to say, "Hey, I never really thought about it that way." So you say to them, here's what they say. If they ask you, "Well, what's the price of this machine?" I say, "It's $4,000 and it's a bargain." And here's why. And so they're looking at me because you raised the curiosity, okay? So what you're doing now basically is you say, "Hey, I got some questions for you related to that." Okay, can I ask you a question? They'll say, "Sure." So you ever bought a car? They go, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what did you pay for your last car?" Let's say they bought a car that was $20,000, a brand new car. They say, "Okay, great. So you paid $20,000 for your last car, right?" Say, "Yeah." I say, "You ever bought a house or you have a mortgage payment or rent payment if you're living in an apartment or condo?" And they're going to say, "Yeah," unless they're homeless and live on the street. And I go, "So tell me, you know, what do you pay for your mortgage payment or your rent payment?" Let's say they say $1,100. And I say, "Okay, great. So let me get this straight. You're willing to spend $20,000 on something to ride in. You're willing to spend $1,100 a month on something to live in and sleep in, but you're not willing to spend $4,000 on your health on the only body that you get for your whole life, and if something goes wrong, it's going to cost you well over $4,000. Okay, so I hope you guys are listening to this. If you're an adjunct distributor, I'm telling you, if you do that, they're going to go, I never really thought about it that way. Now, there's some other things you can say as it relates to the Obama healthcare and policies and all that stuff. But I'm telling you, if you use the car, the house, and your product as the price metaphor story, you're going to change their perception of the price, of the value of it, okay? And this is a very non-salesy, non-pushy way to use a metaphor story to do that for a price objection. So it doesn't matter whether you're selling an adjunct machine, you're selling a car, you're selling any kind of product. If you're selling phones or iPads in Verizon, you're selling real estate and justifying your 6%, or you're selling insurance. You can use these price metaphors as it relates to something they can relate to, okay? And you can put the metaphor towards what you are selling as a product or service so that it changes their perception on the price, all right? So that's the first one. That's price metaphor. The next one is value metaphor, okay? Now, let's say you're talking about the value of a particular product, okay? And we're because here's the thing, guys. This is the old adage, and you can tell people, especially if they're not like 20-something, they've been around the block. You say, you've been around the block a few times. You know the old saying, you get what you pay for. And people go, yeah, I understand that. So you say, hey, well, have you ever thought about the difference between bottles of wine? I mean, like if I took you to a grocery store and I said, we're going to buy a bottle of Ripple or we're going to buy a bottle of expensive Chardonnay, I said, would you treat those two wines as being equivalent? I mean, one is going to cost you $5, the other one may cost you $80 a bottle. I mean, why would they charge $80 a bottle for that expensive Chardonnay when you can always buy Ripple for $5? I mean, wouldn't you buy that every day of the week? Now the person is going to go, no, and you go, well, why? Because they say that's a cheap bottle of wine, and the wine's bad, it doesn't taste good. And they didn't go through the same and you say, well, they didn't go through the same process. They probably didn't have the same grapes and tend to the grape, the vineyard, to produce that type of expensive Chardonnay. Wouldn't you agree? And they go, yeah. And wouldn't you agree that the Ripple is probably the really crummy grapes, and that's what they're putting in the Ripple? That's why they're only charging $5 for the bottle of Ripple? You go, yeah. So wouldn't you agree that that same thing applies to what we're talking about here with the value of my product versus the competitor's product? You could say, it's the same thing with a Hugo and a Mercedes-Benz. Okay, if I ask you, hey, why would you ever spend money on a Mercedes-Benz when you could spend $8,000 and get a Hugo? I mean, and the people will say, well, that's a crummy car. In fact, they don't even make it anymore because it's so crummy. And you go, well, exactly. So do you understand what I'm saying here with you get what you pay for? So that's the value metaphor, guys. It's the metaphor story, and you can do it in terms of cars, wines, anything, where there's an expensive and a cheaper one, to get them to understand that they get what they pay for, okay? And not everything is equivalent in price. We know that to be true because otherwise, no matter what we had out there, as far as the same kind of product, it would all be the same price, and that does not exist in our society. Okay, so we do place a value, and it could be a status value, it could be an opportunity value, but we place some kind of value on what we're doing here. Okay, the next thing is the trust metaphor. Okay, this is the last one. Now, if you want to get really talk about trust with people. Now, again, you'll get into the pieces of the 4 different types of profiles and the 4 ego filters and how to speak to that in the crocbrain selling system. But here's the thing. If you wanted to build trust with somebody, you talk about a story between the mechanic and the doctor. You say, let me ask you a question. Let's say, God forbid, you got cancer and you had a choice to go to a mechanic or a doctor to treat your illness. Which one would you go to? They'll say, well, I go to a doctor. And you say, well, why would you go to a doctor when you could go to a mechanic? I mean, your body's a machine. They could work on the machine because he's not qualified or she's not qualified. And you say, exactly. So here's the thing. You go to a particular person to deliver a certain product or service based on your perceived value of understanding what their ability is to do what you need them to do. And because they have certain certifications and certain degrees, you place trust in that. right? Because you wouldn't go to a doctor unless the doctor had an MD degree, right? You're not going to go to somebody who just went to 1 year of medical school to treat your cancer, would you? And they go, no. So, okay, great. So, as it relates to what I sell for product, service, or whatever, you show them all the certifications, all of the things that matter to them that are important. That's what builds the trust, and that's the trust metaphor story that you can use. So your homework again for this week is create a metaphor story for your business opportunity or product or service. Make it simple like that, because here's the thing. We all can remember stories, not only stories we create, but stories we hear, okay? If you don't believe me, tell someone a story and then tell them right after you tell it to them, ask them, hey, could you recount the story for me, or at least give me the highlights? Almost every single one will be able to do it. Why? Because we remember stories. Why? Because the cells filter's down and it's going into the limbic system of our brain, all right? So what I want you to do is you create a metaphor story, put it to memory, and use it on a couple people this week and watch what happens, okay? And see how they change their perception, whether it's price, value, or trust. Watch what happens and watch their body language, watch their eye movement. You know, you're going to learn about all this stuff in future webinars, but just watch what happens, all right? So this week's recap, guys, for the last slide here, before we jump off the call, is number one, I want you to find 3 people this week and ask them, ask the 2 questions, okay? You want to ask the first question basically of, hey, are you married to your job? You keep your options open. And number 2, what would it take for you to consider something else part-time? Find 3 people. Even, here's the thing. Forget about the process right now of getting them from point A to point B of, okay, I'm going to talk to them and I'm going to talk them into, or I'm going to present my product or service or business opportunity and get a sale. All I'm asking you to do is go ask that question of 3 people and see if you can collect their name and phone number. Watch what happens. Okay? That's all you need to do. I'm just showing you so to try it, to prove it to yourself that it works. The other stuff of, well, what do I do when I get the name and phone number? We're going to cover that. But just go out and do that. Just have some fun with it. It's going to take you all of about 30 seconds per person, or about 90 seconds of your time this next week. Okay? Number 2, craft 1 or 2. I show people how to statements with rhyming and use them on a couple people. Okay? And see if they respond back to you favorably. Now, you know, you may get the classic response of, well, that's interesting. You know, tell me more about that. You may not. But the thing about it is they may ask you a question which opens up the dialogue for you to go after the next 8-second bit of information. All right? And number 3, create a metaphor story and use it on a couple of people this week. So I don't care whether if you're having troubles with price objections, create a metaphor story for that. I know a lot of you guys in Enagic have price objections you get all the time. So use that story I just gave you. It works great because they'll come if they say, you know, I never thought about it that way, then you know that your metaphor story worked. So either price, value, or trust, one of the 3, but create a metaphor story and use it on a couple people this week. And then lastly, guys, if you'd like to purchase the entire Crocodile Brain Selling System membership site, there's an add to cart button on the right-hand side. You can jump in there. There's 72 videos. There's sales scripts. There is the whole process of not only what to say, but what to do. We've got a lot of people in here that are using it already. This complements what you are learning in there. If you're not getting in there on a daily basis, guys, carve out 30 minutes a day. You know, get up 30 minutes earlier or stay up 30 minutes later, but do it every day and learn something so that you can dramatically grow your business. So if you want that, that's great. I have the 3 payments, 67. I have finished up the video. The price is going up here real soon because I just got a chance to get the video all finished, and I am going to change that pretty soon. But you can get in today and part of tomorrow for that price before we change it. So that is our webinar for this week. All of you guys that are on, we are going to have another webinar again the same time this next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central. You will get a registration link. The replay will come to you. It'll be the same thing, except for it's going to be a new piece of information of the Crocodile Brain selling system every week, so that you can learn and try these things and, basically blow up your business in a really good way. And you can start teaching this to your people so that they all learn it too, so that whether you are in a business opportunity, a network marketing opportunity, a product or service, you are teaching duplication to your sales team. And that's where you get a lot of power. Okay, so with that, I'm all done. Lynette, did you have any other things you wanted to add?
Not a bit. You've done a great job. Great information, Peter. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I don't know if Dan, are you able to talk, or are you? I'm not sure if you're able to say anything, if you have audio or not. But we'll get that fixed for next week.
Just make sure you invite your team members.
Yeah, that's a good point, guys. Here's the thing. Like I said before, and just to wrap this up, because we're right at the 6 o'clock hour, we did start about 5 minutes late, and I told you it was going to be 60 minutes. We want to keep to that. But I do, guys, for all of you that have been around the block a little bit, you know about Apple Computer, and I talk about this in the videos. And I come from a product development world. Apple started, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs way back when. They had the Apple II, the 2GS, and the first Macs came out when, personal computers. But they had evangelists, okay? And I don't care whether you are in Enagic or you're in Verizon or you're in some other company, you're on this and you're listening. You are an evangelist. You are someone, you want to spread the word. The idea is to go from hundreds of people on this webinar to thousands, because the more people, so bring your team in. If you're going to do a whole team where you have a big screen and you're doing it together as a group, but bring people in so that they can learn these things, so they can understand not just what to say and what to do, but how the brain is working, so you understand when you say certain things, you get certain body language responses or certain eye movement responses. Oh, I remember Peter talking about that. That's what's happening. And it's kind of fun. I mean, when you really master this stuff and you start trying it, we have lots of people on here, I know because I see your names, that have tried this stuff, that have talked to me, that actually, have people charging them. Literally coming after them physically, going, tell me more about your opportunity or your product or your service, because they're so, you've hit them in a way that is so powerful, okay? And as we learn more and more about neuroscience, as this is only a 10-year-old technology, so as we learn more about it and the inner workings of the brain, it is no longer the big companies, I will guarantee you, because I know already, McDonald's, Starbucks, Walmart, they're all working in the neuroscience areas. It's not a matter of market share anymore. It is a matter of internal mind share. You're getting things now that you can use and also understand what's happening in the brain to the best of our ability with the technology that we have right now, that really is going to help you grow your business, but have a lot of fun along the way. So like Lynette said, be the evangelist, spread the word. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Share it with everybody.
One more question, Peter.
Yes.
One more question. You said early on that there was a replay.
Yes, there is a
understand that.
No, there is
how would one go?
Everyone that
access it?
Yeah, everyone that's on this call and everyone that maybe missed it for whatever reason, things come up, you're going to get an automatic replay link, and you can click on that link and you can watch this again and again and again. For you guys in the Crocodile Brain Selling System, this is a start of, if you have been in there a couple times but really haven't taken it seriously, this is your kickstart and your complement to get that going. So you get the replay, share the replay with others, but make sure that they also come and register for these webinar events. You're going to get some really cool stuff. And again, it's not always going to be me talking. I want to get Dan on, I want to get Lynette on. Dan has got some crazy stories. That guy, I don't know how he sleeps at night. He's got so much business now and sold so many machines in the last 4 to 6 weeks. And he's not alone. There's a lot of people out there that, they are absolutely growing their business using these kinds of things. We're going to have them on, talk about what they're doing. So again, you're learning from everyone. This is a community, and that's what it's really all about. So Lynette, thank you for reminding me on that. Make sure you'll get the emails. Make sure you register for next week. We're going to have, yet again, a new set of topics. I really appreciate you guys all being on today, and thank you for investing your time. Go out and use this stuff this week. Watch what happens when you do. So with that, guys, thanks a lot for coming in. In the future, we will have Q&A as we get the bugs worked out of this webinar jam system. We'll have some live stuff, so it's not just us talking to you. We can interact. that's what this is really all about, is for everyone to learn. So thanks a lot, guys. We will see you next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same place here. We'll give you a new link. You can come back in and learn some more. With that, thank you, Lynette. Thank you, Dan. We'll get
You're
Dan
welcome.
on next week. And thank you, all you guys that came on. We'll talk to you again next week.
Not all.
Bye-bye.